Welcome, friends, on behalf of Ananda Sangha Worldwide, Crystal Clarity Publishers. It is great joy and privilege to have our special guest today, Lila Devi. And by way of introduction, Lila Devi has founded Spirit and Nature Essences over 45 years ago. And this is a lineage that has spanned the globe since 1977 as the oldest line outside the UK for flower essences. These are based on Paramhansa Yogananda's psycho-spiritual qualities for foods, and Lila Devi has created these essences to help healing of body, mind, and soul. She's the author of 4 books: the Essential Flower Essence Handbook, which is an incredible resource in the flower essence community. Also, Flower Essences for Animals, and Bradley Banana and the Jolly Good Pirate, and also From Bagels to Curry, which is a spiritual memoir of her own. So, Lila Devi, Lila, it is such a joy to have you with us
Thank
today and
you.
get to share in this conversation. Welcome.
Thank you, Naren. It's a great joy to be here with all of you. Thank you for inviting me.
So, I want to start with the first question. If the flower essence is 45 years old, how can that be? You're 30.
Thank you. That's a good joke, but in a sense, not, because taking flower essences and, of course, having an inward life with meditation, with good lifestyle practices, we do start to feel younger and younger, don't we?
Yeah, and I wanted to start with how did you come to this path of flower essences and diving into them as a healing art?
Very simple story. Um, a little over 45 years ago was the first time I landed in California and directly to Ananda Village from northwestern Montana, about 1,200 miles. I traveled for 2 days. I was completely exhausted. I would even say jet lag, though I was in the same time zone. But a woman traveling alone back then, you kind of have your guard up. So I had my backpack, my sleeping bag, and I didn't bring my guitar. I had my dulcimer, my lap dulcimer, and traveled those 1,200 miles
On,
by
on your
train
on your own?
on my own.
Wow.
Yes, sir. I was just a little tyke, of course. And um, so I arrived in Nevada City, quite wiped out. It was a 2 day trip, not really sleeping on the trains or the buses. And then the last half hour having to hitchhike, which it's absurd to even think of that these days, or certainly for a woman alone. But those were the days when it was a mode of transportation. So I arrived at the retreat center, and one of the women in the small dorm where I was staying had flower essences. She gave me one of them very momentously on the first day of coming to California. That was my first experience with a flower essence, and I will share with you, it was nothing less than miraculous. The exhaustion, the disorientation of being sleepless, of not really knowing where I was going, connections, what comes next, weighed heavily on me. I was wiped out.
Hmm.
And so this friend, whom I've even stayed in touch with, gave me a flower essence. I put the drops under my tongue, and that's how long it took for results. I was refreshed, I was renewed. And even to this day, we often get that kind of feedback from people. It's a little bit paradoxical. They'll say, I feel like a new person.
Yeah.
And they'll also say, I feel like myself again. So I would say I experienced both of those states and instantly had the thought that I'm sure many of us do when we experience a miracle, is I want to share this. So it wasn't long after that I encounter, and this is probably going to lead into your next question, the list of the psycho-spiritual qualities of fresh fruits and vegetables, and for this line, a few of the nuts, the almond and the coconut. And to get the understanding, first of all, this is absolutely fascinating, that foods will nourish us not only psychophysiologically, but psycho-spiritually. That they have other components, just as we are not one-dimensional in this world. We have higher states that we can live in. We have an emotional nature, an intellect, etc. And this is a system developed by Paramahansa Yogananda, who came to America at first in 1920, passed away in Los Angeles in 1952, and spread a vast array of teachings, including this information about food sources. With the encouragement of J. Donald Walters, I took that information and I went to the fruit trees and the vegetable plants and made flower essences according to the traditional method of Dr. Edward Bach in England. That's why we say we're the oldest outside the UK. So here, for example, I never have it far from me, is our pear essence for peacefulness. And of these 20, here's another, I'm going to answer your question before you ask them. How do I know what to take? Most people don't. Here's your answer. Take care, take pear is our cute little motto, because it will sensitize you to other flower essences.
Wow, so this is profound, Lila. Going back to your story, it sounds like that was an incredible experience. You were embraced by Mother Nature just when you arrived in California on that first day or first night to receive that flower essence from a friend, and you really could feel, from what I heard you sharing, its profound impact. But could you share a little bit more? That was intriguing to me, how you said we've heard that saying, you are what you eat, but you're saying that the essences affect us not only uh, physiologically, not only in our bodies, but also psychologically and spiritually. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And that leads to the definition of what is a flower essence. And here it depends which company you speak to, because it's not standardized like, say, vitamin C or chamomile tea. We know what those are. They work on us biochemically. Flower essences work on us vibrationally, or you could say energetically. So they do not need to pass through the bloodstream, the digestive system, to initiate a response within us. And that definition is so simple. Think of a newspaper article. You don't waste words. You want as few words as possible. Less is more. Flower essences stimulate our positive qualities. When I take pear essence, the only way it can help me is if there is even a hint of peace within my own being that it can resonate with. And for most of us on the planet, including animals, including other plants, yes, there is an element of peace.
So you're saying, though, we also need to consciously be working on these qualities, and that will help the essences be more effective too. Is that right?
That's one way to look at it, absolutely. But at the same time, some of our best clients are skeptics. And you'd think, well, that doesn't make sense. They're putting out energy to push something away. And I have a stunning testimonial from a nurse who was absolutely not believing in these hocus pocus, snake oils,
Right.
whatever, airy fairy, you can come up with all kinds of phrases there. And she tried, I think she was either encouraged or forced, probably not forced, to try corn essence for mental vitality. And here's the beauty of a testimonial. I gave you mine. with my first one, and you could see my face and my remembering.
Mm.
Doesn't matter how many decades ago. When you have that direct experience, as say in meditation, nobody can ever take it from you. No one can touch it. And the same happened for me with that first dose, and it happened for this woman with the corn essence. I saw her some months later, and her face was a little bit stunned. Not like she'd seen a ghost, unless it was a positive ghost, but oh my gosh, she was not prepared for how deeply it changed her.
Wow.
Those
And,
are the things that happen.
and so from it could be someone like that that doesn't have any, you don't necessarily need to believe that they work, but just have the openness to give it a try. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And you're bringing up another fascinating concept that leads into flower essences for animals. It is the same 20 that we use for people as for pets. A fascinating point for the animals is that they often respond even quicker than human beings, precisely because they do not have prefrontal lobes in their brains. And that's where we get skeptical. That's where we have free will, whereas animals are guided by their limbic system, basically.
Mm.
It's fight or flight, it's complete instinct, but tremendous wisdom. If
Mm.
anything, I bow at the paws and hooves of the animals or the way that they live and what we can learn from them. But at the same time, they are not capable of experiencing the placebo effect.
Wow.
And
So
that's very important.
it can be even more immediate. I'm hearing you say for animals because they don't have that sort of static or those thwarting cross currents of our the rational mind, which can cause us a lot of problems when it's used in the wrong way.
Excellently said. I'm going to plagiarize you. Static is what it is in the human mind. We all know that. We all have them, right? And so the complexity and the complications that we go through are kind of off the charts. Animals, for example, when they're in pain, either an illness or some kind of emergency, they just deal with it
Yeah.
in the moment. All
Hmm.
they can live in is the moment, whereas the human mind is all over the map, consciousness wise. We live in the past, the future, oh, and maybe a little bit in the present. So if we have an injury, it's, oh my goodness, does my insurance cover this? What about my family? All these other thoughts, when can I go back to work, etc. Oh, what have I done? Animals just deal with it.
That's really profound. It reminds me, I saw and read about Monty Roberts, who's the one of the famous horse trainers.
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful how he works with the horses with love and respect, and
Yes.
it sounds like it's a very similar process here that you're helping people and animals cooperate with their own flow of energy so that they can be more present. So what was inspiring to me there, you were sharing about you remembered that experience when you first took the flower essence way back when, and you still it's an eternal moment is what it sounded like to me. So do
Wow.
the essences help strip away that static, so what people talk about with yoga and meditation, so that we can get to that kind of eternal space of our nature?
Wow, Narayan, I just want to suggest that right now you quit your day job and come work for us.
That's
This
why
is
we're here.
this is absolutely beautiful how you are articulating flower essences and how they work and all the facets that they cover for the animals. And my gosh, I also mentioned for plants. Can I share with you one of the most classic flower essence responses for a vase of cut flowers. Okay,
Yeah.
this happened in Brazil.
Hmm.
This was a flower essence practitioner. She also had a day job, a different job, and there was an employee's lounge. On the table, there was a vase of extremely wilted flowers, and you could see that in their body language, completely face down, wilted, life force gone. Okay, she just happened, I love these stories, just happened, I have a lot of those too, to have a bottle of orange essence with her. Orange is for enthusiasm.
Okay.
It is for overcoming despair. It is for either long term, very deep, or both kinds of tests in our lives. And they do pop up to test us, to help us to grow and transmute them from obstacles to opportunities. So, on her way out of the lounge, she added a few drops directly in the water.
Hmm.
She came back 10 minutes later. This is the part that drives me crazy. I wish she had stayed, because when she came back 10 minutes later, the flowers looked freshly cut. Every single one of them was upright, radiating color, completely vibrant.
Wow.
And I just gave myself chills as often as I've shared that story because it's so illustrative.
So from her change in her in her vibration or in her consciousness, the flowers picked that up. Is that what your understanding was of what happened?
You could say that, but even more perhaps was administering the flower essence to the water so the flowers themselves could respond. And of course, our own intentions as the practitioners
Mm.
have a great deal to do with setting the stage. Even in my pet's book, for which I interviewed a medical doctor on this concept of the prefrontal lobes, he explained that even with his patients, even with Western medicine, allopathic prescriptions, he would inspire them. He would talk about all the positive benefits and not the long list of side effects or contraindications to activate their own will.
Mm.
And so, what happened here? The flowers, certainly in the kingdom below, not meant as a judgment, the animal kingdom,
Yeah.
but they have a central nervous system. They don't even have a brain, what to speak of prefrontal lobes, but they have life force. And
Wow.
that brings up another point. Anything with life force can
Mm.
respond to flower essences. You can try giving them to your computer, but you probably won't see results.
If
You
the
know,
computer's crashing, we can't give it orange essence to wake up.
right, right. I'm sure you might remember this story. One of our mutual friends had a car that he named, was it St. Peter? Am I getting the right saint? Or St. Paul, who died daily?
Oh yeah, St. Paul.
St.
Mm.
Paul. Yeah.
Mm.
So who knows? Because there is such a thing as metal fatigue. So even in the mineral kingdom,
Yeah.
you're seeing the awakening of
Right.
consciousness, and that is all covered in the first chapter of my pet's book. May I read to you just a paragraph?
Yes, please, by all means.
Okay. This is in the introduction. Flower essences, herbal tinctures for strength and balance, are a wonderful means of natural pet care. They address a wide range of psychological and emotional issues for animals and people alike. Subtle, yes. Weak, no. In gentle, non invasive ways, they provide a taste of nature in a language at once familiar and accessible to animals. Since its inception in 1977, my company, Spirit and Nature Essences, has been the recipient of testimonials from pet owners and animal lovers worldwide. Flower essences have enriched not only their pets' lives, but their own as well.
Wow. That this is really incredible, Leela, to get the understanding that yes, of course, it could be used for humans, for animals, and for plants. So what do you say to, for example, I spoke with a friend yesterday, and people are really struggling given the current world conditions, as we know, how dire things are. And this woman in particular was suffering from kind of what you had just shared, that other story, feelings of despair, feelings of, she knows she has a lot to be grateful for in life, but she's just up against the wall, so to speak, and is kind of losing that will to live. I was concerned for her, and we had a long discussion about it. But what would you say, and would there be an essence that you would offer to that type of person?
Absolutely. And I humorously say in one of the chapters of the Essential Flower Essence Handbook, is there a flower essence for everything? The answer is yes. And that's a bold statement. And, these past 2 years, we've not seen anything like it in our lifetimes. And in the newspapers, the word they use is languishing. People have been languishing, fading, withering. So
Mm-hmm.
much has been taken from us, and yet we still have our free will. We cannot change the circumstances, socially, how we've been affected. I won't go into details. We've lived them too long. We don't need to hear them. But the fact that we have been challenged as never before. And we can interpret that to mean as never before, flower essences can help and are more needed than ever. They are gentle. They have no side effects, no contraindications, no possibility of overdosing, of any kind of dependence, certainly not psychophysiological, because they don't even work on that level. But the ability to restore ourselves as hard as life gets, we can grow stronger. And we're seeing that. We also have a good country. America, yes, we've made some big boo boos, but Americans are kind hearted, they're gentle, they can be very gracious, certainly very childlike. And I can say things like that because I have traveled the world to many countries and shared the light and the potency of these flower essences. Now it's all on Zoom, of course, but back to this dear woman. First, I would suggest the pear essence.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's a crisis, 1 week is long enough, 1 to 2 weeks. And also, because until, I'm going to do my show and tell again,
Yes.
until the arrival of our chakra blend flower essences that are combinations of 3 to a bottle, we have had only the 20 single flower essences. Now, these being a blend of 3, they're specially suited to each of the chakras and what will strengthen, balance, promote, free the flow of energy. So that's kind of an exception, but taking the essences singly, back to this lady, is, according to feedback, we'll see quicker results, more noticeable results, and the obvious one, but still worth mentioning, which flower essence you have connected with. And it's very tricky to do that in a combination. It's like the difference between the, I think, rather profound conversation you and I are having versus a whole group, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So for this lady, hair essence to prepare her. There are so many figures of speech here for the rest of the program, but it would be that pear essence for 1 week.
Okay.
And pear, what is peacefulness? Peacefulness is the opposite of war. What is war? It is resistance.
Mm.
This is, I'm going to simplify, not oversimplify, the only challenge of humanity. We resist
Wow.
what life gives us. We spend so much energy every day. Oh, it's Monday morning. I don't want to go to work. I don't like my lunch. I don't like my spouse. I don't like whatever. Oh, the weather's horrible. I wish I could do something else. How much energy do we lose every day resisting?
Yeah.
Last summer, in Northern California, when not only was there the pandemic, there was very severe fire danger, not to mention a drought that we're not out of yet. So for about 6 months, everyone in Northern California would go to bed at night, and every single night not know if we would be awakened by police sirens right outside our homes to announce you have 5 to 30 minutes to evacuate. We didn't know. I was guzzling beer, okay? And we'll see about this fire season and how prepared people can be. But okay, so back to this lady. This is taking a while. I hope.
Oh, this is great.
Okay. The second essence, the second week, as you astutely observed, would be the orange essence. And if we want to trace back to the magnificence of Mother Nature and what she gives us for our own healing through the flowers and their beauty to visually heal us, and the flower essences to vibrationally restore us. And notice I don't use the word healing with the flower essences because that comes too close to a claim, which in the US we're not allowed to do. But to restore through the blossoms, the potency of the blossoms, her own enthusiasm for life, that there is hope. You think of enthusiasm and hope almost in the same breath. As bad as it is, I'm bigger than my test. As much as I even hypnotize myself, maybe I'm speaking for her, into thinking that I'm this big and my tests are this big. It's really the opposite. And this test is giving me the opportunity to experience that truer reality of who I am, as well as the flower essence to just kind of lean down, a supportive hand. And again, from Mother Nature, I don't know if you've ever been in an orange tree orchard. I have every time I make this flower essence, and the scent of the blossoms. If you've smelled it once, you will never forget it because you feel like you've died and gone to heaven. It's, they call it even the odor of sanctity. It's a blossom often used in India, and the fruit itself as well in some of the spiritual practices, to offer this, to offer it up, to offer that high vibration from nature. And I'll introduce a word, Narayan, that I know you know many years, many times over. The word is sattvic. Sattvic refers to a universal energy. There are three. There is tamas and tamasic, rajas and rajasic, sattva and sattvic. I'll go into all three briefly if we have.
Yeah, what does that mean for people that aren't aware of those terms?
Okay. They are just flows of energy, flows to describe states of consciousness, you could say. And the reason I mention this is because the 20 varieties of foods from which I go to the blossoms to make the essences, all 20 are sattvic. Okay. Mushrooms as a food, for example, have what is known as a tamasic energy, or a little bit sluggish, low energy, possibly deadening, lazy. So just wanting to pull the covers over our eyes and not get up in the morning when we know we should. And then we have the rajasic flows of energy. Okay, there is energy, but it's frenetic. It's not centered. It's kind of scattered, nervous, etc. And there are even some spiritual traditions that say go really lightly on the garlic and the onions because they have a very activating rajasic kind of energy.
I see.
And it's a big concept, right? Then we come to the sattvic energy and it is very energetic, but it is very balanced. It is uplifting. It is spiritual. You could even use the word super conscious. So all 20 of these flower essences are filled with sattvic energy from the blossoms, and botanically as well, because it is the blossom of the plant, the tree, or the stalk, as in the case of banana essence, that contains 90% of the plant's life force.
Wow. Okay, so let me understand this for people that are, yes, their first exposure to flower essences. So you create them from the blossom from the tree, the stem, whatever it is. If it's an orange tree, uh,
Blossoms.
or you go to the orange blossom of that tree. So this reminds me, there was, I don't know who said it, but flowers are the stars of the earth. So what I'm hearing you say is you're going to these flowers from the blossoms from these fruit trees that have these uplifting qualities like orange for enthusiasm, and you're taking the essence which is held there very uh, potently in the blossom. Is that right? Then how do you
Correct.
cultivate
Yes.
that? How do you cultivate that essence? How do you create it and bottle what we see there?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question as well. The process is so simple, it might challenge your credibility. The time of the year in Northern California where the essences can be made is very limited because I work with the blossoms in their peak of bloom. It needs to be a completely cloudless morning. It is the morning when you make them
Mm.
because the blossoms, I always go like this is my clear glass bowl,
Hmm.
and the blossoms sit in the bowl covering the surface filled with pure spring water. In direct sunlight, not even my own shadow can pass over that bowl. I know it sounds a little like witchcraft, but there is something to say
Like,
about an unbroken flow of the sunlight.
hmm.
So 3 to 4 hours, and I have botched at times and didn't watch where I was stepping, and oh, I have to start over kind of thing. So no clouds, have to check the weather forecast, whatnot. And at the end of that time, the blossoms are skimmed off. That bowl of water, magic water. There's something magical about it now because the life force of the blossoms has been infused into the pure spring water.
Mm.
From that point on, it receives no sunlight, which is why you always see a dark bottle. They
Okay.
need to be stored out of heat, out of sunlight, best out of humidity, and upright and well sealed. So they're not like this, because then the formula will interact with the rubber stopper inside, and we don't really want that. So that is the mother essence. And to that is added an alcohol preservative, a chemical preservative. So
Sure.
they have a very generous shelf life.
Wow. It,
And
mhm.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say that this makes a lot. It makes a lot of sense. I recall yogis talking about put your water and your milk outside and let the sunlight hit the milk or the water so that it's infused with, well, they've talked about it with the pandemic, right? Get outside in the sun, get your vitamin D. But what you're talking about is the subtler layer of that, is allow the essence to be infused with life force. This is
Yes,
really
yes,
amazing. So then you take those, and then I just, as a patient, so to speak, I just take a few drops under the tongue, Leela, like.
yes, yes. And this bottle, stock concentrate, is the next preparation. This is all we sell. We do not sell mother essence. We do not sell, on the other side of it, the dosage bottle that practitioners can use stock concentrate to make if they wish. You can also take stock concentrate directly under the tongue, and those directions are in the Essential Flower Essence Handbook. But you'll take these 2 to 4 drops 4 times a day.
Okay.
Or you could just, if you want to remember, several times several drops, several times a day, not too close to meals, much like homeopathy, because they are subtle. And sometimes people think, oh, well, does that mean ineffectual? Does that mean wimpy? No, not at all. But they're gracious and they will defer to your digestive system because that's a hardy process.
That makes sense.
Going on. Yeah.
Would you recommend that people put them in their water? Like you have your water bottle, and I put
Absolutely.
3-4 drops in here, and I'm sipping it throughout the day.
Yes. Yes. And then you don't have to mess with the bottle or keep your bottle by your bedside because first thing upon arising and last thing at night are excellent times to take the flower essences. That's when you could say the door to our subconscious is a little bit more open than during the rest of the day. You can take them more. If there's an emergency, please do. Or please administer to an animal or say a bird crashing into a window. I have pear essence throughout my house, the office, 2 bottles in my purse because you never know if you're going to meet somebody who can benefit from it.
That was really profound for me how you were sharing before about pear helping us break down that resistance, and that we're always fighting against, in many instances, our own higher nature. So do you always, it's kind of a universal prescription to start with that base of pear to establish peace? I know the yogis talk about, of course, you need that, your foundation of peace. Swami Kriyananda would say, right, peace is my bottom line, so to speak. So if
absolutely
at the same with, that's why you prescribe pear essence as a kind of a baseline, and then you can build upon that.
Yes, and again, very well said. Do consider working for us. You already get these. It sounds like really, really well.
I want to be getting a package of them. Do you? I know you have the individual bottles, but you had a little chakra set. Do you also offer the individual essences in a set as well?
Oh yeah, and funny you should mention that because right behind me are examples of the full set. We offer them.
Those are sets behind you? They just look like beautiful. I thought they were cards that you had on your wall.
Oh, well, these are, this is my little arts and crafts project.
Oh my God, they're beautiful.
And this would be filled with the 20 flower essences, almond through tomato. So this is an option for how people can buy the full set. And it's really helpful to have all 20. It's not 200, it's only 20. It keeps the price down. And there our motto is, fewer to choose, less to confuse. There's a motto for everything, basically.
What if someone wants a flower essence session with you, Lila? Do you offer that type of consultation? Somebody wants to talk and share. Is that something that you do offer?
Yes, and that's on our website, which is perfect segue. Spirit-in-nature.com. And then for the books, we have Lila Devi author.com. And I wanted to go back to the Essential Flower Essence Handbook that was first published, what is it now, about 26 years ago.
Yeah.
And is about to undergo a major revision and come out in a new edition with a new chapter about the 7 chakra blend flower essences. This book as well, it's a great honor to be able to say, was the best-selling audiobook for Crystal Clarity Publishers in 2021.
Wow.
Another distinction is that it is used by doctors across borders, their holistic branch, to train their physicians. They chose this book. So
That's wonderful. It's good to know that you're coming out with that new edition with the Chakra Essences. May I ask just to give us an example of the heart center or the heart chakra? I'm just curious, what essences do you have in that blend?
Let's see if I. Okay, this is funny right now. I think I only. Oh, good. I found the Japanese version of this chart, but I want to show you the English one. And I'm showing you this because the 20 essences are broken up into halves and quadrants, and the fourth quadrant is 5 different essences with a theme of love.
Mm.
And the quintessential one is grape essence. You'll see it right here at the pinnacle. So if this were a clock, we're getting really close to noon or midnight there. And this is for the kind of love that is pure, unconditional, divine love, not I'll give to you if you give me something back, which the term came out, 30 years ago about codependence, but that pure love between anyone and anything, and it can even be our love of something like noble ideals, what to speak of pet and pet owner.
Mm.
So,
That's really neat. So you've got that whole chart there, and people can reference it for the different chakras.
right. And as well, since we're on literature, to show how simple it is to get back to, well, what do you do after pair? Where do you go?
Mm.
The simple explanation to develop these qualities, try these flower essences. You know what you're working on maybe better than anyone else.
Right. Now,
Is it? Yeah.
I thought, Leela, I recalled, it's been some time since I read the Flower Essence book, but I thought that you had also maybe coupled, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, affirmations with the essences, or am I
Yes.
blanking on that?
Yes.
Did I make that
And
up?
if I can exit stage left for 5 seconds, the cards are right here.
Because as you're exiting, I know it's been part of our yoga practice to have in Ananda yoga to have the affirmations with the yoga postures. I found that so helpful. So you have done that.
Have done that, and the great honor is that J. Donald Walters himself wrote the affirmations for each of the essences with such care. This was in 2004, and he sent me 19 emails, revising, and then revising again. He explained to have the affirmations resonate with the subconscious mind. That's where we get stuck. All those, either from this life, or if reincarnation works for you, from past lives that we carry forward with us, maybe from childhood, who knows which childhood. And if you don't mind that, again, we're just segueing all over the place. You've led into, I just want to briefly mention that my 5th book will be out in 3 weeks. And it is about nature, human nature, Mother Nature, in the form of tulips, especially. And the title of this children's book, that is 300 words and 30 pages, is called I Remember Being a Tulip.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's got so much sweetness. And you know, every book, Narayan, there's
Yeah.
such a backstory and so many memories for me of a book that's not even out yet in the whole process. It is inspired by a Northern California garden that many of us know about, the Crystal Hermitage
Mm.
Tulip Gardens, that's seasonal. It's been closed for 2 years because of the pandemic. It is opening on March 26th, and this book, as a souvenir, will be available for people. I'm very happy to say.
It's beautiful. That's so much fun, Leela.
Too
And
much.
it really feels like I remember being a tulip. Is that the title? That kind of sounds like the essence of the flower essence work, is we're getting back to our childlike nature. And so
Wow.
you were talking about before, we could take the essence, as we go to bed or as we wake up, right? To help reprogram our or cleanse or restore, as you were saying, our subconscious. Would you mind sharing the affirmation for pair, since we've talked so much about pair and peacefulness? What is the affirmation?
Funny, that card just came up. Shall we say it together?
Please.
Shall we all do? Okay, let's do it 3 times, first more loudly, then in a normal voice, and the third time silently only. So please repeat after me responsively. Smilingly, I greet life's difficulties,
Smilingly, I greet life's difficulties,
seeing all of them as gay flowers in a meadow
seeing all of them as gay flowers in a meadow,
that nod with encouragement and opportunity.
that nod with encouragement and opportunity.
Once more, a little softer. Smilingly, I greet life's difficulties,
Smilingly, I greet life's difficulties,
seeing all of them as gay flowers in a meadow
seeing all of them as gay flowers in a meadow,
that nod with encouragement and opportunity.
that nod with encouragement and opportunity.
And the third time, silently, just listening and taking this deep into your cells, allowing even the affirmation to resonate with your own core of inner peace. Smilingly, I greet life's difficulties, seeing all of them as gay flowers in a meadow that nod with encouragement and opportunity. Take a breath before you open your eyes. See if you can feel changed even from that affirmation. That we greet all of life's difficulties.
That is so beautiful. That helped me just have a shift in my consciousness to, I think all of us, especially with the difficulties in the world today, can really fall into complaining Jane, quote unquote, attitudes in our minds, and just why me, or what's going on with the world, and just to shift that to the opportunity that life is presenting to us. And I want to try, and I am, because I'm out of pair myself here, but I would like to try that with the essence, and just to see how one can tune in more deeply to the quality of peacefulness.
Yes, it's very powerful to say the affirmations when you take your flower essences, because to be honest, we need all the help we can get.
Yeah,
You don't say that to your plant, you don't say it to a child or to your pet, but we really do need help. And the synchronicity of the two is extremely powerful. And Narayan, when you were sort of articulating the need for pair and saying, why me? That is a perfect example of the resistance. Why me? Why not someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this my test? Why something's wrong with this picture? Something's wrong with the universe. Well, guess what? Nothing's wrong with it. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And that was a big contradiction. But why do we expect it to be other than that? Let's direct that expectation in a positive way toward ourselves.
Right.
To living in our highest potential. We have a byline of our own perfect well-being. That's our only challenge.
That is so beautiful. Yeah, that is so beautiful, Lila, to live in that higher realm of our being. And I'm with you. We need all the help we can get. And
we do. And we have all the answers we need, right within ourselves. Of all the blogs that I've written for both of the sites mentioned, I've probably written many, many more for pair. And the last one, I thought, what can I say differently about pair essence? And I talked about the color of the pear blossom, which is pure white.
Wow.
That is both the absence and the presence of every single color.
Mm.
Just that purity. It's that white chalkboard, that white, unblemished quality that we have of pure peace. And
Wow.
when we find that place, the responses to this essence and to each one of them actually can be phenomenal, miraculous, but why not?
Why not? For sure. And you're reminding me that white purity of the pear flower, the pear blossom, and what you were talking about before, the resistance that we have so often is really just not, well, that white is in full acceptance of all the colors, so to speak. And so if we can be in full acceptance of life and stop resisting, and the essences and the affirmation with it can really profoundly help us do that on levels that we can't get to with our conscious mind. And it's really what I hear you sharing too is it reminds me of how Einstein would say you can't solve the problem on the level of consciousness it was created. So
Yes.
what you're doing is you're helping us bring in, a touch of light, a touch of spirit in nature that's in our, I mean, what I find so encouraging about the work that you're doing is it's our own spiritual nature, and it's just allowing that to, like a blossom, to
Thank
unfold.
you. Thank you again. Well said. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because the flower essences, to be honest, are catalysts. They are pump primers. The answers are not here. The reminder is here of who you are. I sometimes go like this. It looks silly, but it's better than a slap in the face. It means wake up.
Mm,
You already are perfect. You already have perfect well-being. So what's the problem? We don't believe it. We're hypnotized.
mm,
We wake up every day to the same problems, and then we make a humongous error of identifying with
mm,
those errors and defining ourselves by our littleness. There is no littleness here. It's only how we choose to perceive ourselves. And that's the operative word, how we choose, because that is how a being like ourselves, human beings, use our free will. We can't choose that the pandemic happened. We can choose how we relate to it. And there is a very wise sage who said, circumstances are neutral. And I've debated that with scholarly people who says, I'm sorry, that's not true. What about, heaven forbid, the concentration camps?
mm,
We saw people emerge from
mm.
those camps, better people, if not completely saintly.
I got chills. I thought of Viktor Frankl and
Yes,
man's search for
yes.
meaning right when you said that, and in any circumstance. And you know, who knows what's happening with the world today, and the world needs our love now more than ever. And so these essences, thank you so much, Lila, for dedicating your life in this way to this type of helping people just remember that they have that divine potential within themselves. And so we're going to put in the link here at the bottom of the YouTube will be your website, spirit in nature.com, right? That will be there for the essences. Also, your author website, which I forget what that one was,
LilaDeviAuthor.com.
right? And so people can find both the Essential Flower Essence handbook, which is being redone, which we're excited about, and also the Flower Essence for Animals and your children's books, and also your own memoir. So, Leela, this has been really an absolute delight. And Thank you so much for taking the time, and we will look forward to having more conversations like this in the future.
Yes, me as well. Thank you so much. And I wish for each and every one of you perfect well being.
Thank you, Lila.